Now this right here is an SUV at this point that needs no further introduction. It's the Tata Curvv, but today we're seeing it up close and in the flesh. There are a lot more details on the car that we know now, chief of which is the price. And it starts at 17.49 lakh rupees and goes up to 21.99 lakh rupees. Now those are introductory prices. The key takeaway here is that Tata Motors says that on road, these prices are comparable to a petrol automatic comparable mid-size SUV. Now what do you think about those prices? Let us know down in the comments. So what else do we know about the Tata Curvv EV? Well, there's the powertrain. There are new batteries, 45 kilowatt hour and 55 kilowatt hour, which are class leading, Tata Motors says, and they are connected to a 167 horsepower motor, which is 123 kilowatts. Now Tata Motors says that gives it 502 kilometers of range on the MIDC cycle for the 45 kilowatt hour battery and 585 kilometers for the 55 kilowatt hour battery. That's a lot, but Tata Motors admits that that is a lab tested number, and in the real world you get something like 350 kilometers of range from the smaller battery and 425 from the larger battery. And that's Tata's own claim for real world usage and real world driving conditions. What do you think about that range? Is it enough for a mid-size SUV? Let us know down in the comments. Now some other interesting stats. This car uses the Acti EV platform that debuted on the Punch EV, and that gives it a ground clearance of 190 millimeters, which is quite substantial. That ground clearance, incidentally, Tata Motors says gives it a water weighting capability of 450 millimeters, which is quite substantial for your everyday family SUV, and an EV no less. And you also get a 500-liter boot, which is not something you'd expect from a sloping coupe SUV. Now, of course, the sloping coupe roofline is what sets this car apart from every other mid-size SUV in the segment, but there are loads of other interesting design details all over the car. I, for one, really like the gloss black treatment for the cladding over the wheel arches. I like the 18-inch aero-efficient alloy wheels. I really like these flush door handles that have a bit of illumination to show you where they are at night, and these metallic accents in the front bumper, which are very similar to the Nexon EV. Also this front mounted charging port, which in this car is electrically actuated and not manually. And under here you'll also find a bit of a frunk, which can take, ideally, the charging cables. Also, check out this new key. It's got a metallic finish, it looks super classy, and it's even got braille on the side in case somebody visually impaired needs to operate the key. Certainly not the car. Up in the front seat, things are a lot like the Nexon EV, with a few things borrowed from the Harrier. Well, like the steering wheel, which has got this extra 2 spokes down here. That reminds me a lot of the bigger cars. But everything else is quite similar, including the digital dials over there. And I believe this is the bigger 12-inch touchscreen over here. The rest of the dash quite similar to the Nexon EV, with a bit of hard plastic on the top, but some very interesting textures down here, including contrast stitching. Now, like the Nexon EV, the Curvv EV in its top persona gets light, almost white color upholstery, which let's see how that lasts, but it looks very neat and spacious and futuristic. Similar center console treatment to the Nexon EV with all this gloss black over here. Touch controls for a lot of functions and physical controls, nice, for the auto climate control. Here you'll also find the rotary dial for the drive modes and this lovely monostable selector for the gearbox. There's a wireless charger up here and this very, very slim cubby hole down here. And once again, they've done away with the cup holders to accommodate this wireless charger. Now, do you like that choice? Let us know down in the comments. And what do you think of the interior of the Curvv EV? Tell us that too. Now, competing in the ultra-competitive mid-size SUV segment means this car has to be loaded to the gills with features, and the good news is that it is. Now, some of the highlights include the panoramic sunroof, the big slick touchscreen, the digital dials, level 2 ADAS, 360-degree cameras, and my favorite, ventilated seats with power adjust for the driver. And with that, let's go check out the back seat. Now in the back seat here, things are pretty interesting. Well, for one, it's a pretty high step up off the floor into the cabin, and yes, it's very noticeably a raised floor thanks to the battery underneath. You're sat quite knees up, and knee room, although I've not really set things to my own preferences, seems decent but not amazing. Headroom too is decent, They've scooped it out as much as they could, and yeah, you do get a surprising amount of room considering this is a coupe SUV. It's a similar story with the sunroof, which although isn't a fully panoramic one, it can't come all the way back as this is a coupe SUV. It is at least a dual pane sunroof that lets in quite a decent amount of light. And I also got to commend them for making pretty large windows, again by coupe SUV standards, so you don't feel hemmed in, you don't feel too cooped up in the back here. I also like these seats, which are nice and plush and comfy, very well cushioned. And yeah, though it might not be quite as spacious and practical as some proper mid-size SUVs, it does a pretty good job of getting things done. On the equipment front, yeah, you do get rear AC vents, no blower control unfortunately, and there is a 45-watt USB Type-C charger back here. So that's everything you need to know about the Tata Curvv EV, but they also show the Tata Curvv ICE, which is just over there, so let's go check it out. So here we are with the Tata Curvv ICE, and the big news is under the hood where there are a set of new engines. It starts with a 1.2, which is called the Hyperion. It's the turbocharged gasoline direct injection engine, and it makes a solid 125 horsepower and 225 Newton meters of torque, which can go up to 250 in short bursts. That's really interesting because it also comes mated to a manual gearbox or a dual clutch automatic. The other engine is the 1.5 diesel, which is called the Cryotech, which makes 118 horsepower and 260 Newton meters of torque. What's also interesting is that one too will be mated to a dual clutch automatic. Now, would you be interested in testing out that dual clutch automatic? We sure are. Stay tuned for our review, which will come in a little while. Now, exterior differences between the ICE Curvv and the Curvv EV are restricted to colors. The fact that this one has 208 mm of ground clearance as opposed to 190 in the EV, and these wheels, which look a little bit more rugged than the ones you get on the EV. Now, on the inside, the top trims get this lovely red sort of burgundy upholstery shade, but that's about it. Now, prices for the ICE Curvv will be announced on September 2nd. Where do you think it should be priced? Let us know down in the comments. And are you excited for the Curvv ICE and the Curvv EV? Tell us in the comments and let us know what you expect.